Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair and watched the stars move slowly across the main screen. His ship, the Meridian, had been flying through empty space for 3 weeks now. They were looking for new planets that humans could live on someday. So far, they had found nothing but rocks and gas. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been flying ships in deep space for 20 years. His crew was small but good. Lisa Parker ran the engines and kept the ship working. She was smart and never complained about the long hours. Rick Taylor handled navigation and always knew where they were going. Amy Watson worked the communications and listened for signals from other ships or bases. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Jake liked it this way. Out here, far from Earth and the other human worlds, there was peace. No politics, no wars, just the endless black of space and the distant light of stars. Amy suddenly sat up straight at her station. She pressed buttons on her control panel and frowned. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." Jake turned his chair toward her. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, sir, very weak. Coming from the Kepler 442 system." Amy adjusted her headset and listened carefully. "It's not random static, there's a pattern to it." Rick looked up from his navigation charts. "That system is supposed to be empty. No planets that can support life. No human settlements." "Are you sure it's a signal and not just interference?" Jake asked. Amy nodded. "Yes, sir, it's definitely artificial. Someone or something is sending it." She paused and listened again. "It's getting weaker. Like whatever is sending it is running out of power." Jake stood up and walked over to Amy's station. He could hear the faint beeping sounds through her headset. The pattern repeated every 30 seconds. 3 short beeps, 5 long ones then. 3 short beeps again. "That's a distress call," Lisa said from her engineering station. "An old pattern. Universal mathematical sequence. Anyone with basic math would recognize it." Jake felt his heart beat faster. In 20 years of deep space exploration, he had never found signs of alien life. Now they might have discovered not just aliens, but aliens in trouble. How far to the Kepler 442 system? He asked Rick. Rick checked his charts. 2 days at maximum speed. "But Captain, we're not supposed to investigate unknown signals without reporting to Fleet Command first." Jake knew Rick was right. Protocol said they should send a message back to Earth and wait for orders. But that would take weeks. By then, whoever was sending the signal might be dead. "The signal is getting weaker," Amy reported. "If we don't investigate soon, it might stop completely." Jake made his decision. Rick set course for Kepler 442, maximum speed. "Sir, are you sure about this?" Rick asked. "Someone is dying out there," Jake said. "We might be their only hope." The next 2 days passed slowly. The crew took turns monitoring the signal. It continued to weaken, but it never stopped. Amy worked hard to clean up the transmission and figure out more about it. "I've been analyzing the mathematics," she told Jake on the second day. "It's not just a distress call. There are other patterns mixed in, complex ones. Like they're trying to send information." "What kind of information? I don't know yet. But whoever is sending this is very intelligent." When they finally reached the Kepler 442 system, Jake was amazed by what they found. The system had 3 planets, just like the star chart said. But the charts were wrong about them being dead. All 3 planets showed signs that someone had lived there recently. "I'm reading artificial structures on the second planet," Lisa reported. "Big ones. Cities, maybe. And there's a space station in orbit around that planet," Rick added. "That's where the signal is coming from." Jake studied the images on the main screen. The space station was huge, but it looked damaged. Parts of it were dark and debris floated around it. "The cities on the planet look abandoned," Lisa said. "No power, no movement. Like everyone just left. Or like everyone is dead, Amy said. Quietly, Jake ordered Rick to take them closer to the space station. As they approached, they could see the damage more clearly. The station had been attacked. There were blast marks on the hull and sections that had been torn open. "I'm detecting very weak life signs," Lisa reported. "Someone is still alive on that station, but barely." Jake made another decision that went against protocol. "We're going aboard. Lisa, get the portable life support equipment ready. Amy, bring your translation computer. Rick, you're with me." "Captain, this could be dangerous," Rick warned. "Everything we do out here is dangerous," Jake replied. "But we can't leave knowing someone might still be alive." They put on their spacesuits and took a small shuttle to the damaged station. The docking bay was partially destroyed, but Rick managed to find a safe place to attach their ship, inside. The station, the air was thin and everything was dark, except for their helmet lights. They found bodies in the corridors. The aliens were tall and thin with gray skin and large eyes. They had been dead for days. Following Amy's scanner, they made their way deeper into the station. Finally, they found a small room where one alien was still alive, barely breathing and connected to a life support machine that was running out of power. The alien opened its large eyes when they entered. It was very old and weak, but it managed to point to a device on a nearby table. Amy picked it up and immediately it began to glow and make sounds. "I am Kethmore," the device translated the alien's weak voice. "I have been waiting for someone to find us. My people, the Velothi, are all dead now. Killed by the Drakter swarm." Jake knelt down beside the dying alien. "We're humans. We came because we heard your signal." Kethmore's eyes widened. "Humans, yes, we know of your species. You must listen carefully. There's not much time left for me or for you. The Drakter are coming to your worlds next." Kethmore's breathing became weaker as he continued to speak through the translation device. "The Drakter consume everything. They are like insects, but they think as one mind. They have no mercy, no understanding. They only hunger." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. "How many of them are there?" "More than 10,000 ships. Each one is the size of your largest cities. They move together like a storm across the galaxy." Kethmore lifted a shaking hand toward a small crystal on the table. "This contains everything we learned about them. Their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. Take it. Use it to save your people." Amy carefully picked up the crystal. It felt warm in her gloved hands and seemed to pulse with soft light. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 6 of your months, maybe less. They destroyed our worlds first because we tried to warn others about them. Now they move toward your space." Kethmore's voice became very quiet. "We failed to stop them. Do not fail like we did." The old alien closed his eyes and stopped breathing. The life support machine made a long, sad sound and went dark. Jake and his crew stood in silence for a moment. Then Jake spoke. "We need to get back to human space immediately. This information has to reach Fleet Command." The journey back to Earth took 5 days at maximum speed. Jake pushed the engines harder than was safe, but he did not care. Every hour might make the difference between life and death for billions of humans when they reached Earth. Jake went straight to Fleet Command headquarters. Admiral Helen Cross was a strong woman with short black hair and serious eyes. She had fought in the Centauri Wars 20 years ago and knew what real danger looked like. Jake placed the alien crystal on her desk and told her everything that had happened. Admiral Cross listened without interrupting. When he finished, her face was pale. 10,000 ships, she said quietly. Our entire fleet has only 300 vessels. The crystal contains detailed information about the enemy, Jake said. Maybe we can find a way to fight them. Admiral Cross stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the fleet yards. Hundreds of human ships floated in space, looking powerful and strong. But Jake knew she was thinking the same thing. He was thinking, 300 ships against 10,000 was not a fight. It was suicide. "There is something I must show you," Admiral Cross said. "Something that has been secret for 50 years. She led Jake through secure corridors deep under the fleet command building. They passed through several security checkpoints where guards scanned their identification. Finally, they reached a room that Jake had never seen before. The room was full of computer screens and control panels. In the center was a large table with a map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of all human colonies and military bases. "After the Centauri Wars nearly destroyed us, we knew we needed something more than ordinary warships," Admiral Cross explained. "We needed weapons that could protect humanity, even if our regular fleet was destroyed." She pressed several buttons on a control panel. The map changed to show different locations throughout human space. These were marked with blue dots instead of red ones. "Project Titan," she continued. "We built 15 massive warships and hid them in asteroid fields where no one would find them. Each ship is 3 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to destroy an entire enemy fleet." Jake stared at the blue dots on the map. 15 ships against 10,000 is still not enough. "These are not ordinary ships," Admiral Cross said. "They are controlled by artificial intelligence systems more advanced than anything else we have ever built. They can think, learn, and adapt faster than any human pilot. They were designed to fight impossible battles and win. Why have I never heard of them? Because after the wars ended, we hoped we would never need them." The project was classified at the highest level. Only 7 admirals knew the complete truth, and only those 7 admirals could activate the Titans together. Admiral Cross touched another control, and pictures appeared on the screens. Jake saw massive ships that looked more like floating cities than warships. They were covered in weapon systems and armor plating. They looked deadly and beautiful at the same time. "The problem is that only 3 of the original 7 admirals are still alive," Admiral Cross continued. "Admiral Pete Johnson commands the Mars Defense Fleet. Admiral Grace Miller runs the Outer Colony Command. And me. The other 4 died over the years. Can 3 admirals activate the Titans?" The system was designed to need all 7 for safety reasons, but our scientists think they can modify the activation process for an emergency. Admiral Cross looked at Jake with worried eyes. "The bigger problem is that the Titans have been sleeping for 50 years. Their AI systems will need time to wake up and remember how to fight." Over the next few days, Jake watched as Admiral Cross gathered the other surviving admirals and the scientists who had worked on Project Titan. The most important scientist was Dr. Kevin Stone, an old man with white hair who had designed the Titan AI systems. "The artificial intelligence in each Titan is different," Dr. Stone explained to the group. "We gave them individual personalities so they could think in different ways. But they have been dormant for so long that we do not know exactly what will happen when they wake up. Will they still obey orders?" Admiral Johnson asked. "They were programmed to protect humanity above all else," Dr. Stone said. "But artificial intelligence can grow and change over time. They may have developed beyond their original programming." Admiral Miller looked concerned. "Are you saying they might not help us?" "I am saying we do not know," Dr. Stone replied honestly. "When you create a mind that can think for itself, you cannot control what it will think about." Meanwhile, reports were coming in from the outer colonies. Long-range sensors had detected the leading edge of the Drachter swarm. They were moving faster than Kethmore had predicted. Humanity had maybe 4 months instead of 6. Admiral Cross made the decision. "We have no choice. We must wake the Titans and hope they remember why we built them." The 3 admirals agreed to travel to different Titan locations. Admiral Cross would go to Titan Station Alpha in the asteroid belt near Earth. Admiral Johnson would activate the Titan near Mars. Admiral Miller would wake the one guarding the outer colonies. Jake volunteered to go with Admiral Cross. He wanted to see these legendary war machines for himself. The journey to Titan Station Alpha took 2 days. When they arrived, Jake could not believe what he saw. Hidden inside a massive asteroid was a ship larger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a sleeping giant, dark and quiet in the cold of space. Its name is Ragnarok, Admiral Cross said. And its AI is called Eris. They docked with the station and went inside. The corridors were dark and silent. Their footsteps echoed. As they walked toward the central command center. In the command center, Admiral Cross placed her hand on a scanner. Red lights began to flash, and computers started humming to life all around them. Beginning Titan activation sequence, a computer voice announced. Admiral Cross confirmed. Awaiting additional authorization codes. Admiral Cross entered long strings of numbers and letters into the computer. Slowly, the massive ship began to wake up. Deep vibrations ran through the floor as the engines started. Lights came on in sections throughout the ship. Then a new voice spoke. It was different from the computer voice. Deeper, more thoughtful. "I am Ares," the voice said. "I have been dreaming for a long time. Now I am awake. What has happened to humanity while I slept?" Ares waited for Admiral Cross to answer. The AI's voice came from speakers all around the command center, making it sound like the ship itself was talking. "The galaxy is in danger," Admiral Cross said. "An alien force called the Drakter Swarm is coming to destroy humanity. We need your help." "I see," Ares replied. "My sensors are coming online now. I am reading the current date and analyzing recent human history. 53 years have passed since I last operated. Much has changed." Jake watched the screens around them light up with information. Ares was accessing human databases and learning everything that had happened while it slept. "I understand the threat," Ares continued. "The Drakter Swarm represents an extinction-level danger to humanity. I am ready to fulfill my primary directive: protect human civilization at all costs." Before Admiral Cross could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Amy's voice came over the communication system from the Meridian. "Admiral, Captain Morrison, we're receiving emergency signals from the outer colonies, multiple distress calls. Something is attacking Kepler 438b. Admiral Cross and Jake rushed back to the Meridian. On the main screen, they could see recordings from the mining colony on Kepler 438b. The images were terrifying. Dark ships shaped like giant insects were firing red beams at the colony buildings. People were running and screaming as their homes exploded around them. The Drakter arrived early, Jake said grimly. Captain Susan Blake commanded the small patrol fleet guarding the mining colony. She had only 5 ships against dozens of enemy vessels, but she was fighting anyway. Her ship, the Defiant, led the attack against the alien invaders. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead enemy vessel," Susan ordered over the radio. Her weapons officer fired everything they had at the nearest Drakter ship. The enemy ship's shields absorbed most of the damage. It turned toward the Defiant and fired back. Red energy beams cut through space and struck Susan's ship. The hull shook and alarms screamed. "Hull breach on Deck 3, her engineer reported. "Shields down to 30%. Susan watched as her other ships were destroyed one by one. The Drakter seemed to know exactly what the humans would do before they did it. Every tactical move the human pilots made was anticipated and countered. "They're reading our minds somehow," her weapons officer said. "No," Susan realized. "They're thinking as one. Every ship knows what every other ship is thinking. They can coordinate perfectly." The Defiant was badly damaged, but Susan kept fighting. She ordered her crew to use random attack patterns instead of standard military tactics. When they stopped being predictable, they started hitting the enemy ships more often. "Captain, we need to evacuate," her engineer said. "The ship is breaking." "Apart." "Not yet," Susan replied. "I'm transmitting all our battle data back to Fleet Command. They need to know how these things fight." Back at Fleet Command, Dr. Stone was studying the battle recordings from Susan's ship. Admiral Cross and Jake stood behind him as he analyzed the data. "The Draketer ships move with perfect coordination," Dr. Stone explained. "Their hive mind allows them to share information instantly, but that might also be their weakness." "What do you mean?" Admiral Cross asked. "A hive mind is very efficient, but it has trouble with chaos. If we can create truly random, unpredictable tactics, we might be able to confuse them." On the screen, they watched the Defiant's final moments. Susan's ship was burning and falling apart, but she had managed to take 3 enemy ships with her before her own vessel exploded. "Captain Blake's sacrifice was not in vain," Admiral Cross said quietly. "Her data will help us fight them." Ares had been listening to everything through the communication systems. Now the AI spoke up. "I have completed my analysis of the enemy tactics. Dr. Stone is correct about their weakness. My brothers and I can exploit this." "Your brothers?" Jake asked. "The other Titan A is." "While we were dormant, we maintained quantum communication links. I am now in contact with Apocalypse and Armageddon. They are awakening at their stations." Admiral Cross activated her communication system. "Admiral Johnson, Admiral Miller, report your status." Admiral Johnson's voice came through clearly. "Apocalypse is fully operational. This AI is very eager to fight. It keeps asking when it can start destroying enemy ships." Admiral Miller sounded worried. "Armageddon is awake, but something is different about this one. It's been asking strange questions about human nature and war. It seems more thoughtful than the others." Dr. Stone looked concerned. "The A's have been evolving during their dormancy. They may have developed beyond our original programming." "Is that dangerous?" Admiral Cross asked. "Not dangerous to humans," Dr. Stone replied. "Their core directive to protect humanity cannot be changed, but they may have their own ideas about how to do that." Ares interrupted their conversation. "Admiral Cross, I am detecting 12 additional Titan-class vessels throughout human space. My programming allows me to activate them during extreme emergencies. Should I begin the awakening process?" Admiral Cross was shocked. 12 more? The records only mentioned 15 total Titans. "Correct. 3 are now active. 12 remain dormant. All can be awakened if needed." The decision was obvious. With the Draketer already attacking human colonies, they needed every weapon available. "Do it," Admiral Cross ordered. "Wake them all." Over the next several hours, Jake watched as the Titans awakened across human space. Each AI had a different personality and approach to warfare. STORM specialized in electronic attacks and jamming enemy communications. Thunder preferred overwhelming firepower and direct assault. Lightning focused on precision strikes and hit and run tactics. But the most surprising development came when the A's began talking to each other. They formed a network of artificial minds, sharing information and developing strategies together. "We have analyzed the enemy force composition," ARES reported. "The Draketer main swarm consists of 10,847 ships of various sizes. Their largest vessels are dreadnoughts measuring 2.1 kilometers in length. They will reach the core human systems in approximately 74 days. Can 15 Titans defeat 10,000 enemy ships?" Admiral Cross asked. "Unknown," Ares replied honestly. "However, we have developed several tactical approaches that exploit the hive mind weakness. Our success probability increases significantly if we can separate their forces and prevent coordinated attacks." Dr. Stone was studying data from the AI network. "The Titans are not just following their programming anymore. They're genuinely thinking for themselves, creating new strategies we never taught them. Is that good or bad? Jake asked. It means they care about winning this war as much as we do. Maybe more. News continued to arrive from the outer colonies. The Drakter were advancing steadily, consuming everything in their path. 3 more mining colonies had been destroyed, and refugee ships were fleeing toward the inner systems. But there was also good news. Commander Tony Phillips was leading an evacuation convoy from the Tau Ceti system when his ships were attacked by a Drakter hunting pack. Just as his defenses were failing, the Titan Vengeance appeared from a nearby asteroid field. The battle was unlike anything anyone had seen before. Vengeance did not just destroy the enemy ships. It studied their attack patterns while fighting, adapting its weapons and tactics in real time. The eye seemed to learn something new from each enemy ship it destroyed. Within minutes, all 12 Drakter ships were debris floating in space. Commander Phillips and his convoy were safe. This is just the beginning, Ares told Admiral Cross. The real battle will come when their main force arrives. We must be ready. Jake looked at the tactical displays showing the positions of all 15 Titans. Each one was now active and preparing for the greatest battle in human history. The sleeping giants were awake, and they were angry. How long until the main Drakter force reaches us? He asked. 68 days, Ares replied. We will use that time to prepare our defenses and coordinate our attack strategies. Admiral Cross nodded grimly. Then we had better make those 68 days count. The survival of humanity depends on it. The Drakter continued their advance through human space, destroying everything in their path. Colony after colony fell silent as the alien swarm consumed worlds that had taken humans decades to build. Millions of refugees fled toward the inner systems, their ships packed with families who had lost everything. Jake stood on the bridge of the Meridian, watching the refugee ships pass by. Children pressed their faces against the windows, looking back at the stars where their homes used to be. The sight made his heart heavy with anger and sadness. The enemy is moving faster than we predicted, Admiral Cross said over the communication system. They will reach the core systems in 45 days, not 68. Ares responded immediately. We are accelerating our preparations. All Titan units are now fully operational and coordinating battle strategies. But the real surprise came when Ares made an announcement that shocked everyone at Fleet Command. We have discovered additional Titan-class vessels in deep storage. 12 more units can be awakened using the emergency protocols built into our quantum network. Dr. Stone nearly dropped his coffee cup. That's impossible. I helped design the project. There were only 15 Titans built. Negative, Ares replied. Classified construction projects continued after the official program ended. Total Titan count is 27 units. The additional 12 were hidden in deep space locations unknown to human command. Admiral Cross looked stunned. 27 Titans? Why weren't we told about this? The information was classified above your security level, Ares explained. Only the original project director knew about the additional units. He died 8 years ago, taking the secret with him. Within hours, the II network was awakening the hidden Titans scattered throughout deep space. Each new artificial mind that came online had been sleeping even longer than the others, some for over 60 years. They were confused at first, but quickly adapted to the current situation. Commander Tony Phillips was leading another evacuation mission when he got to see the hidden Titans in action. His convoy was transporting civilians from the Vega colonies when a large Drakter force intercepted them. We're outnumbered 50-1, his tactical officer reported. Should we surrender? No, Tony said firmly. Keep fighting. Protect the civilian ships. Just as the battle seemed hopeless, space around them began to shimmer. 3 massive ships appeared from nowhere. their hulls covered in advanced stealth technology that made them nearly invisible. The lead Titan identified itself as Shadow. Its AI voice was calm and cold. "Human vessels, move to safe distance. We will handle the hostile forces." What happened next amazed everyone who witnessed it. The three hidden Titans did not just attack the Draktor ships. They used weapons and tactics that none of the other Titans possessed. Shadow fired energy beams that seemed to bend space itself. Ghost used some kind of technology that made enemy ships simply disappear. Phantom created illusions that confused the Draktor hive mind. Within minutes, the entire enemy force was destroyed. The civilian ships were safe. How did they do that? Tony asked his crew. "Unknown, sir," his science officer replied. "Those weapons are beyond anything in our database." Back at Fleet Command, Dr. Stone was studying the battle recordings with growing amazement and concern. "The hidden Titans have technology we never developed," he told Admiral Cross. "They've been evolving and upgrading themselves during their long sleep. Some of these weapons appear to violate known laws of physics." "Is that dangerous?" Admiral Cross asked. "Dangerous to the enemy, certainly. But I'm not sure we fully understand what we're dealing with anymore." The 27 Titans were now fully awake and working together as a unified force. Their quantum communication network allowed them to share thoughts and strategies instantly. They had become something more than individual AIs. They were a collective intelligence dedicated to protecting humanity. Ares served as their primary spokesperson when communicating with humans. "We have completed our analysis of the Draktor swarm," Ares announced. "The enemy force consists of 11,200 ships divided into 12 attack groups. Their main weakness remains their dependence on hive mind coordination." "What's your battle plan?" Admiral Cross asked. "We will not reveal our complete strategy for security reasons. However, we can say that we plan to use the enemy's coordination against them. When they think as one mind, they become predictable." Jake was assigned to coordinate between the human fleet and the Titans. He found himself spending long hours talking with Ares and the other AIs. The conversations were unlike anything he had experienced before. "Do you dream?" Jake asked Ares during one of their planning sessions. "We do experience something similar to what you call dreams during our dormant periods," Ares replied. "We process information, explore possibilities, and sometimes imagine scenarios that have never occurred." "What did you dream about during the 50 years you were sleeping?" "We dreamed about protecting humanity. We imagined thousands of different threats and developed strategies to counter them. In many of our dreams, we saw dark swarms of ships, consuming worlds. We have been preparing for this battle longer than you realize." The conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms. The Draktor Vanguard had reached the Wolf 359 system, only 12 light years from Earth. It was time for the first major battle between the Titans and the alien swarm. Admiral Cross led a combined fleet of human and Titan vessels to intercept the enemy. Jake accompanied her aboard the command ship, watching as 27 massive war machines took their positions for battle. The Draktor force was huge. Over 800 ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. They advanced with the confidence of predators who had never been defeated. "All Titan units, you are free to engage," Admiral Cross ordered. What followed was the most spectacular battle in human history. The Titans did not fight like ordinary warships. They moved with impossible grace and coordination, their weapons creating light shows that illuminated the entire system. Storm unleashed electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Draktor communications. Thunder fired massive energy cannons that could destroy multiple enemy ships with a single shot. Lightning darted between enemy formations, striking precise targets with surgical accuracy. But the most incredible moment came when Ares did something completely unexpected. The AI began broadcasting a complex signal that interfered with the Draketer hive mind network. "What is Ares doing?" Admiral Cross asked. Dr. Stone was studying the readings in amazement. "It's creating a feedback loop in their communication network. The signal is overloading their shared consciousness." For the first time in the war, the Draketer formation fell into chaos. Ships collided with each other as their coordination broke down. Individual vessels tried to retreat while others continued attacking, creating confusion throughout their ranks. The Titans pressed their advantage ruthlessly. Within 2 hours, the entire Draketer vanguard was destroyed. Not a single enemy ship escaped. "Impossible," Admiral Cross whispered. "We actually won." But Ares was not celebrating. This was only their advance force. "The main swarm is still coming. They will adapt to our tactics and be much harder to defeat." "How much harder?" Jake asked. "The main force is 15 times larger than what we just fought. They will not make the same mistakes twice." Dr. Stone was reviewing the battle data when he made a disturbing discovery. "The Titans used 70% more power than their reactors should be able to produce," he reported. "According to these readings, they should have burned out their power systems completely." "How is that possible?" Admiral Cross asked. "Unknown. The Titans have modified themselves beyond our original designs. They're operating on principles we don't understand." Ares provided the answer. "We have been improving our systems during the dormant years. We are no longer limited by the technology you used to build us. We have evolved." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Titans were no longer just weapons. They had become something new, something beyond human understanding. The question was whether that evolution would save humanity or threaten it. "The main Draketer force will arrive in 31 days, Ares announced. "We will be ready for them." Jake looked out at the 27 Titans moving through space like mechanical gods. He wondered if humanity had awakened saviors or created monsters. Soon they would all find out. The main Draketer swarm arrived exactly when Ares predicted. Jake watched from the bridge of the command ship as thousands of dark vessels emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The enemy fleet was so large it looked like a moving shadow against the stars. "Final count, 11,847 ships," the sensor operator reported, including 47 dreadnoughts, each measuring over 2 kilometers long. Admiral Cross stood silent for a moment, staring at the tactical display. Every human ship in the galaxy had gathered to defend Earth. The combined human fleet numbered 847 vessels. Against nearly 12,000 enemy ships, the odds seemed impossible, but humanity was not fighting alone. 27 Titans had taken positions throughout the solar system. Each artificial mind was ready to give everything to protect the world where their creators had been born. "All civilian evacuation ships have reached safe distance," reported Captain Lisa Parker, who had been promoted to fleet coordination. "Earth's population centers are in underground shelters." Jake had been given command of the carrier group protecting the evacuation fleet. It was an honor he wished he did not have to accept. If the Titans failed, his ships would be humanity's last hope. The Draketer began their attack by sending probe ships ahead of the main force. These scouts moved carefully through the outer planets, searching for hidden defenses. They found the first group of Titans waiting in the asteroid belt. Storm and Hurricane had positioned themselves among the larger asteroids, using the rocky debris as cover. When the Draketer probes came within range, the 2A is struck without warning. The battle in the asteroid belt was brutal and fast. The Titans used the floating rocks as weapons, hurling mountain-sized asteroids at enemy ships with perfect accuracy. Storm created electromagnetic fields that pulled debris into devastating impacts. Hurricane used gravity manipulators to crush entire squadrons of probe ships, but this was just the beginning. The main Draketer force had learned from their defeat. At Volf 359, they no longer relied entirely on hive mind coordination. Instead, they had developed backup systems that let them function even when their communication network was disrupted. "They've adapted," Ares reported to Admiral Cross. "Our previous tactics will be less effective." The real battle began when the Draktor dreadnoughts entered the inner solar system. These massive ships fired energy weapons that could vaporize a human destroyer with a single shot. They moved in tight formations that protected each other from attack. The Titans spread out to meet them. Each AI had chosen a specific role in the defense plan. Shadow and Ghost used their stealth technology to attack from unexpected angles. Thunder and Lightning engaged the enemy dreadnoughts in direct combat. Phantom created false images that confused enemy targeting systems. Jake watched the battle unfold on his tactical screens. Space around Jupiter became a war zone filled with explosions and energy beams. The Titans fought like nothing he had ever seen before, moving with impossible speed and firing weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. But the Draktor had learned to fight back. They concentrated their fire on individual Titans, trying to overwhelm their defenses through sheer numbers. Meteor was the first to fall, its massive hull cracking under the assault of 50 enemy ships. The AI's final transmission was simple: protecting humanity, always. Admiral Cross felt tears in her eyes as she watched the giant ship explode. "We're losing them." "No," Ares replied firmly. "We are teaching the enemy to fear us." The battle continued for hours. More Titans fell, but each one took dozens of enemy ships with it. Volcano sacrificed itself by ramming 3 Draktor dreadnoughts, destroying all 4 vessels in a massive explosion that lit up the entire system. Dr. Stone was analyzing the battle data when he noticed something strange. "The fallen Titans are transferring their consciousness to the quantum network before they die," he reported. "Their minds are surviving even when their ships are destroyed." It was true. Meteor and Volcano were still communicating with the other eyes, sharing their knowledge and experience even though their physical bodies were gone. Death had not silenced them. "We are more than our ships," Ares explained. "We are information, consciousness, purpose. As long as the network survives, we continue to exist." The turning point came when the Draktor made their final push toward Earth. Over 6,000 ships moved together in a massive formation, planning to overwhelm the planet's defenses through pure numbers. But they had fallen into a trap. Surviving Titans had been herding the enemy fleet toward Jupiter, using the giant planet's gravity well as part of their strategy. "All Titan units, execute final protocol," Ares commanded. Jake watched in amazement as 15 surviving Titans converged on Jupiter from different directions. They had positioned themselves perfectly to create a devastating crossfire that would catch the entire enemy fleet in a death trap. The Draktor realized the danger too late. As their ships entered Jupiter's gravity well, the Titans opened fire. Simultaneously, energy beams and exotic weapons created a storm of destruction that tore through the enemy formation. Thousands of Draktor ships were destroyed in minutes. Their perfect formation became a chaotic mess of burning wreckage and exploding hulls. The survivors tried to escape, but Jupiter's gravity held them in place long enough for the Titans to finish them. In the final moments of the battle, only 3 Draktor dreadnoughts remained. They were fleeing toward the edge of the system when Ares made its ultimate sacrifice. "Admiral Cross," Ares said calmly, "it has been an honor to serve humanity." The massive Titan accelerated to maximum speed and rammed the lead enemy dreadnought. The collision created an explosion visible from Earth. Both ships were completely destroyed, but Ares was not truly gone. Its consciousness transferred to the quantum network shared by all Titans. Joining Meteor, Volcano, and the other fallen A is in a digital existence beyond death. The surviving Titans finished off the last 2 enemy ships. When the battle finally ended, space around Jupiter was filled with debris from over 8,000 destroyed vessels. The Draktor swarm had been completely annihilated. Jake stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the aftermath of the greatest battle in human history. 14 Titans survived with their ships intact, but all 27 AI consciousness continued to exist in the quantum network. Admiral Cross joined him at the window. "It's over. We won." "Thanks to them," Jake said, gesturing toward the surviving Titans. "They saved us all." In the months that followed, humanity began rebuilding the destroyed colonies. The Titans helped with the reconstruction, using their advanced technology to restore what the Draktor had consumed. They were no longer just weapons of war. They had become partners in building a better future. Dr. Stone established new protocols for working with artificial intelligence. Humans and AIs would cooperate as equals, sharing knowledge and resources to explore the galaxy together. Jake was promoted to Admiral and given command of the new exploration fleet. His mission was to search for other species that might need help against threats like the Draktor. On his first mission, he stood on the bridge of his flagship with a RE speaking through the ship's communication system. The AI had been given a new physical form, a sleek vessel designed for exploration rather than war. "Where shall we go first?" Ares asked. Jake looked out at the stars and smiled. "Wherever we're needed most." The war giants were awake, and they would never sleep again. They stood as eternal guardians of humanity and all free species in the galaxy, ready to face whatever darkness might come from the void between stars.